Rejected by an alpha for being deemed worthless, an omega would find herself saving the life of an alpha king that very night. Sera Winters had been dramatically rejected for days prior, and the impact of the event was devastating her. The one who rejected her was Blake Thornton, the man she believed was her fated mate. "I reject you as my mate," he had declared, causing massive shock within the pack. He had humiliated Sera. Whispers and murmurs had broken out. "What a shame, that poor girl." This devastated Sera. The rejection felt as if her heart had been ripped out. In a way, Sera almost understood Blake because she was a nobody. She had nothing to offer besides loyalty. Her family had no status. Blake, on the other hand, was the beta son. Leadership was in his blood. He wanted a mate who would add to his value. Sera was just a low-status omega from the village, dragging him down. Sera packed a few belongings into her bag, left a short note, and departed before dawn without saying goodbye to the Pine Grove lands. To stay any longer meant more pain. Disappearing for a while would do her good. She wanted the pack to forget her. For 4 days, she had been wandering alone in the neutral territories. She had been rejected by her pack as an omega. She was trying to understand where she was supposed to go. Other packs wouldn't accept a wolf who had been rejected by her mate. She was branded now. In the afternoon, a snowstorm started abruptly. The wind blew fiercely and the temperature plummeted. "I have to find shelter," she muttered. After looking around for a time, she found a cave among the crags. The cave was on the mountainside, surrounded by rock. She entered, trembling from the cold. With a few pieces of wood, she barely managed to build a fire. She didn't want to die here alone and freezing in a cave. From exhaustion and aided by the warmth of the fire, she drifted off to sleep. She heard a sound that made her skin crawl and she startled awake. It was a howl unlike any she had ever heard. It was filled with pain, as of screaming in agony. The sound faded. The fact that it was so close made Sera even more uneasy. It could be a trap. She had heard that rogues' wolves without a pack set traps like this. The thought came to her. The sound came once more, much weaker this time, desperate. "If it were you, would you have left the cave?" "Let's meet in the car. Let's meet in the comments." And Sera couldn't remain indifferent to the sounds of suffering. Her compassion went out. She went outside, pulling on her jacket. Despite the raging storm, she could barely see in front of her. She moved toward the faint, pained howl. After walking a few meters, she froze at what she saw, panic rising, a massive wolf, even with half of its body buried in the snow. It was the largest wolf she had ever seen, pure white, entirely different from ordinary wolves. It seemed to glow even in the snow, but its magnificent body was injured and bleeding. As she got closer, she saw deep gashes. "What did they do to you?" Sera whispered. The giant wolf's eyes opened. Sera was stunned. Amber-colored eyes, a magnificent wolf in every way. "I'm here to help. You don't need to be afraid," Sera said. She had no idea how to help. She didn't know first aid. She had to get the enormous wolf back to the cave, but she wasn't strong enough. She decided to drag it. She carefully noted the location of its wounds and began to pull. She got it as far as the mouth of the cave, but she was completely exhausted. "I will not let you die," she vowed, using her last bit of energy to haul it inside. The wounds were bad. It was clear from the marks that other wolves had attacked it. She performed some clumsy makeshift first aid. The white wolf's golden eyes followed her movements. It made soft sounds a few times as if responding to her words. Each time, Sera felt that strange electric connection grow stronger. As hours passed and she continued to work, cleaning the blood, checking bandages, trying to keep him warm with her own body heat. When the fire started to die, she found herself talking more freely than she had in days. "I was rejected," she confessed quietly, her hands gentle as she checked his bandages for the 3rd time. 4 days ago, in front of my whole pack, the alpha I thought was my mate told everyone he didn't want me. And you know the worst part? I can't even blame him. I'm not special. I'm just an ordinary Omega with nothing to offer. The wolf made a low sound as if in disagreement, and Sera felt her eyes sting with tears. You are sweet to pretend that's not true, she said with a sad smile. But we both know how the world works. Status matters, power matters, connections matter, and love? She laughed bitterly. Bitterly, love doesn't matter at all compared to political advantage and pack alliances. She worked all night, barely sleeping. She checked his wounds every hour. She kept the fire lit despite the dwindling wood supply. A few times she thought she was losing him. His breathing slowed. His body became frighteningly still. But each time she spoke to him urgently, begging him to hold on, and the wolf somehow rallied. Why am I fighting so hard for you? Sera asked as the false dawn began to light the sky outside the cave. I don't even know you. You could even be dangerous. You might attack me the moment you are strong, but I can't. Her voice broke. I can't just watch another living being suffer when I had the power to help. Even if I'm broken, rejected, and worthless, at least I can do this. At least I can try to save you. The white wolf's golden eyes opened again, locking on her face with that same intense gaze, and Sera felt something shift in her chest. Faint, barely perceptible, but it was like a small crack had opened in the wall of pain that had surrounded her heart since the rejection, as if maybe she wasn't completely broken after all. As the real sunrise approached, the storm finally began to subside. The wind died down, the snow turned into occasional flurries. Sera was dozing against the cave wall, exhausted from the desperate night of healing. Wind sounds from outside woke her. It wasn't the wind this time, not the snow. Voices, many voices coming from different directions. Sera moved to the cave entrance and her blood ran cold at what she saw. There were wolves everywhere. Dozens of them in both human and wolf form, searching the snow-covered landscape with obvious urgency and purpose. And they were all heading in her direction. Drawn from the smoke from her fire, or perhaps his scent, they were following. Fear sprayed through her veins like ice water. So many wolves moving together with such purpose could only mean one thing. This was a pack on a mission. And she was alone and defenseless with no one to protect her. If they decided she had done something wrong, if the white wolf she was caring for was one of them and they thought she had harmed him. She turned back to the wolf, intending to wake him and tell him his pack was here. But she froze at what she saw. The massive white creature was awake, watching her with those intense golden eyes. And in his expression, there was almost an apology. Your pack is here. Serious, Sera said, trying to keep her voice steady despite her fear. You should probably let them know you're okay, or else they'll... The rest of her sentence died in her throat as the wolf's form began to shimmer and change. Sera had seen wolves shift before, hundreds of times, but never with such power. Never with an energy that made the air crackle with electricity, that made her Omega nature want to bow and submit. In seconds, the giant white wolf transformed into a man, and Sera felt her breath catch. He was beautiful, but not in a conventional way. It had nothing to do with physical appearance. It was all about the pure presence he radiated. Even injured and exhausted, covered in makeshift bandages and clearly weak from blood loss, he looked exactly like what he was, an alpha of unimaginable power and authority. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a muscular build that radiated raw power. His hair was dark, almost black, and a little long. His face was all sharp angles and strong features. But what captured her were his eyes, those same golden amber eyes that had watched her all night, now staring back at her from a devastatingly handsome human face. Who are you? Sera whispered, though a part of her already knew the answer. She had already realized she was caught up in something far bigger than just a simple injured wolf. My name is Cade Wolfe. the man replied, his voice rough from disuse, but carrying an authority that made her Omega nature snap to attention. And I am the Alpha King of the Rocky Mountains region. The word struck Sera like a physical blow. The Alpha King? She had spent the entire night saving the life of the most powerful wolf in existence. She touched him, tended his wounds, spoken to him about her own rejection, as if he were just any wounded creature seeking shelter from the storm. I didn't know, she stammered, pulling back instinctively. Her back hit the cave wall. Your Majesty, I'm so sorry. I should have been more respectful. I shouldn't have touched you without permission. I shouldn't have... Sera. The way he said her name stopped her mid-panic. It was gentle, warm. There was no trace of the commanding tone she expected from royalty. You saved my life, Cade continued slowly, trying to push himself into a sitting position despite the obvious pain. You kept me alive all night when I would have died in that snow. There is nothing for you to apologize for. But I'm just a packless Omega, and you are. Your Majesty. The voice came from outside the cave, and suddenly the entrance was filled with wolves in their human forms, all wearing expressions of relief and concern. Thank God. We've been searching for you all night. Are you injured? What happened? Cade never took his golden eyes from Sera's face as he answered his people. I was ambushed by rogues 15 miles north of here. They used silver weapons and left me for dead in the blizzard. I managed to shift and follow my instinct south, but I would have died if not for this Omega who found me and spent the night saving my life. Every eye at the cave's entrance turned to Sera, and she felt herself shrink under the weight of so much attention. These were the Alpha King's personal guard, his most trusted wolves, and they were all looking at her with expressions ranging from gratitude to suspicion and even outright shock. She's packless, one of them said, a tall woman with sharp features, her voice laced with obvious skepticism. Alone in neutral territory, no pack scent. Why would a packless wolf risk herself to help anyone, especially the Alpha King? Because she is kind, Commander Riley, Cade said firmly, instantly faltering as he tried to push himself into his feet. Sera moved without thinking, surging forward to support his weight, despite the intimidating presence of all the other wolves. You need to rest, she said, her healer instincts overriding her fear. These wounds are serious, and you lost too much blood. If you try to move too much now, you'll open them up again. Listen to her. Listen to her, Cade told his guards with a faint smile. She's been ordering me around all night, and I've learned it's just easier to obey. A few of the guards exchanged looks Sera couldn't interpret, but they stepped back to give her room as she helped Cade settle back down by the fire. We need to get you back to the compound, said Commander Riley, her voice professional but urgent. Our healers can treat these wounds properly, and later... Cade cut her off. First, I want to hear how the search went. How long was I missing? 16 hours, Your Majesty. Every available wolf has been searching since you didn't return from your patrol last evening. The entire Rocky Mountain region was on high alert. 16 hours. Sera had spent 16 hours keeping the Alpha King alive, and she didn't even know who he was. The absurdity of the situation would be funny if she weren't so terrified about what would happen now. Your Majesty, Sera said, quietly, trying to sidle toward the cave entrance. Now that your pack is here, you don't need me. I should go. And no. The single word carried so much authority that Sera froze in place. You aren't going anywhere, Cade continued, his eyes locked intensely on hers. Not yet. But I'm just a packless Omega. You don't need... What I need, Cade said, his voice gentle but firm, is to talk to the woman who saved my life, the woman who tended my wounds all night and told me about her own pain, the woman who told a dying wolf she understood what it felt like to want to give up. Sera felt her face flush with shame and embarrassment. She had forgotten he could understand everything she'd said.
all her confessions of rejection, worthlessness, and how maybe it would just be easier to stop fighting. "You were rejected?" he continued, and a few of the guards gasped in surprise. "4 days ago, by an alpha named Blake Thornton from the Pinewood Pack?" "How did you know that?" Sera whispered. "Because you told me," Cade replied. "While you were saving my life last night, you told me everything."
His expression softened. "And I want you to know Blake Thornton is a complete fool. Any alpha who would reject an omega with your compassion, your strength, your ability to put someone else's life before your own survival is too stupid to deserve you." The words broke something in Sera's chest, and she felt tears begin to flow despite her best efforts to hold them back. "Don't cry," Cade said gently. "Please don't cry. I can't bear to see you in pain after everything you did for me." "I'm sorry," Sera said through her tears. "It's just, I'm not used to anyone saying kind things about me, especially not since the rejection." "Well, you'd better get used to it," he replied with a small smile, "because I have a lot more kind things to say, starting with the fact that something happened during our night together." He paused, his golden eyes scanning her face. A mating bond formed between us. The cave fell completely silent. Sera stared at Cade in shock, unable to comprehend what he was saying. Commander Riley looked like she was going to faint. A few other guards were whispering excitedly to each other. "That's impossible," Sera finally managed. "I was already rejected." "The bond with Blake, clearly it wasn't a true mating bond," Cade interrupted gently. "The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. Sera, if Blake was able to reject you, it's because you were never truly his. You were made to be mine. But you are. The Alpha King," Sera protested, her voice rising in desperation. "You can't be mated to a rejected Omega. With no pact, no status, it would be a scandal. It would undermine your authority. You need someone strong, someone with connections, someone who can help you lead, not a broken wolf." "You are not broken." Cade's voice held such absolute conviction that Sera fell silent. "You are the strongest person I know," he continued. "You survived a rejection that would destroy most wolves. You left your pack so you wouldn't be a burden. And then, when you found a stranger dying in a blizzard, you used your last supplies and spent all night saving his life. That isn't brokenness, Sera. That is extraordinary." "I can't be a queen," Sera whispered. "I don't know how to lead. I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy or—" "Neither did I when I first became king," Cade said with a gentle smile. "Leadership is learned, Sera. But compassion, the ability to see the value in others, even when you are suffering yourself, that can't be taught. And that is exactly what I need in a mate." Commander Riley stepped forward, her expression no longer suspicious but warm. "Your Majesty, if I may speak freely." "Always, Ree." "I have served you for 30 years, and in all that time, I have never seen you look at anyone the way you are looking at this Omega. If she's your fated mate, then regardless of her past or status, she is exactly who you need." Riley turned to Sera with a respectful bow. "My lady, I apologize for my earlier suspicions. Any wolf who would save our king's life deserves our respect and gratitude." Sera's life is about to change completely, from being the pathless Omega to suddenly being called my lady. She's even earned the respect of Commander Riley. But the real bomb hasn't dropped yet. If you are wondering what the Alpha King will ask of Sera and what her answer will be, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more fantastic stories like this. Now, let's get back to the most crucial part of the story. "I'm not a lady," Sera said automatically. "I'm just my mate."
Cade finished firmly, and therefore the future queen of the Rocky Mountain regions. If you'll have me, that is. Sera looked at him, at this powerful alpha who looked at her like she was precious, not worthless, and felt the mating bond humming between them with undeniable reality. He wasn't lying. This was real. The moon goddess had truly matched her with the Alpha King himself. "Why would you want me?" she asked, voicing the fear that had lived in her since her rejection. "After Blake didn't want me, I thought there was something wrong with me, that maybe I really am worthless." "There is nothing wrong with you," Cade said with fierce conviction. "Blake rejected you because he is a fool, obsessed with political advantage, unable to recognize true worth. But I see you, Sera. I see your kindness, your strength, your compassionate heart. And I don't just want you as my mate because the moon goddess chose you. I want you because you are the kind of person I have been hoping to find for over a century." The sincerity in his voice broke down Sera's last defenses, and despite her fear, she found herself moving closer to him. "I don't know how to be a queen. I'll teach you. We'll learn together." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently took her hand. The mating bond flared at the contact, warm, comforting, and nothing like the painful pull she'd felt with Blake. "But you need to understand something," Cade continued. "I don't want you to accept me out of gratitude or obligation. If you don't truly want this, if the idea of being my mate is too overwhelming, I will respect that. I'll see that you are taken care of, help you find a pack that will accept you, and I will never bother you again. Even if we are mates. Even then, because you were already forced into a bond you didn't choose, and I will not do that to you again. Your choice matters, Sera. Your feelings matter. You matter." Those words were everything she had needed to hear since her rejection, everything Blake had never said or believed. Looking into Cade's golden eyes, Sera saw not just desire or political calculation, but genuine care and respect. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly. "I'm scared of being rejected again, scared of failing at being a queen, scared that everyone will be right about me being worthless." "Then we'll be scared together," Cade said, repeating her own words back to her from the night before. "Because I'm terrified too. I'm scared I won't be good enough for you, scared I can't undo the damage of that rejection, scared I won't be able to show you just how valuable and precious you are." Sera felt fresh tears fall, but this time they weren't tears of pain. "You really mean it?" "Every word." He squeezed her hand gently. "You saved my life last night, Sera. Not just physically, though you definitely did that, but you also reminded me why I wanted to be king in the first place. To create a world where wolves like you, wolves with kind hearts and compassionate souls, are cherished and protected, not rejected and cast aside." "I want to accept," Sera whispered. "I want to believe this is real and that I deserve it, but I'm so afraid of being hurt again." "I understand, and I will wait as long as you need. We can take it slow, get to know each other properly, and you can decide when or if you are ready to accept the bond formally." He smiled. "But in the meantime, will you at least come home with me? Let my healers check you over, make sure you're healthy. After 4 days of wandering alone, let me show you what your life could be if you choose to be my mate." Sera looked at the guards gathered around, all of them watching her, not with the suspicion or disdain she was used to, but with expressions of hope and encouragement. These people had searched all night in a blizzard for their lost king, and now they were looking at her, a rejected Pac Lamega. She was something precious. "Okay," she finally said, feeling something like courage building in her chest. "I'll come with you, but just to heal and to think things over. I'm not promising anything more than that." "That's all I'm asking for," Cade assured her, his smile making her heart skip a beat. And Sera took her first step from the life of rejection into the world of the Alpha King. If you liked this story and Sera's journey, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Do you think Sera will accept Bee Queen? Will she be able to overcome her fears? Share your thoughts with me in the comments.
The journey to the compound took the better part of the day. Cade insisted on traveling slowly, despite his guards' obvious hurry to get their injured king home. He stayed close to Sera the entire time, pointing out landmarks and telling her stories about the region, clearly trying to help her feel more at ease. The Rocky Mountain region was breathtaking. Massive pine forests gave way to snow-capped peaks that seemed to touch the sky. Crystal-clear streams cut through valleys filled with wildflowers that somehow endured the harsh climate. It was wild and beautiful, and utterly different from the smaller, more enclosed territory of the Pinewood Pack. When the compound finally came into view, Sera felt her breath catch. It wasn't the medieval fortress she had half expected. Instead, it was a massive structure, blending modern architecture with a rustic mountain lodge aesthetic, all glass, wood, and stone, built into the side of a mountain with a view that stretched on forever. It looked like something out of a luxury magazine, not a real place where actual wolves lived. "It's too much," Sera whispered, feeling a sudden panic rise in her. "There's no way I belong here. Look at me. I'm covered in dirt and blood. I don't have any proper clothes. I'm a nobody." "You are mine," Cade interrupted gently, "and that makes you very important. But if this is truly too overwhelming, we can go somewhere else. I have a cabin hired up in the mountains. It's small, simple, and quiet. We can go there instead. Spend time together, away from all the politics and pressure." The offer was tempting, but Sera shook her head. "No. If I'm going to consider being your mate, I need to see what that life actually looks like. No running, no hiding. I have to face this head on." Pride shined in Cade's golden eyes. "You are braver than you know." The compound staff was lined up to greet their returning king, and Sera was overwhelmed by the sheer number of wolves present. But Cade never left her side, introducing her not as a rescued rogue, but as his mate and future queen. And the respect she saw from every wolf they met was both staggering and deeply moving. "Your Majesty," said an elder Marcus, bowing deeply as they entered the main lodge. "Thank the goddess you're safe. We were so worried when you didn't return." "I am fine, Elder Marcus, thanks to this extraordinary Omega. She saved my life and asked for nothing in return." The elder's eyes widened when he looked at Sera, and she braced herself for judgment or criticism. But instead he bowed to her too. "Then we are all in your debt, young lady. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain compound." The rooms Cade gave her were larger than any place Sera had ever been. A massive bed, piled high with soft blankets that looked like they cost more than her entire wardrobe. A bathroom with actual heated floors and a shower with more settings than she knew what to do with. Windows that looked out over the mountains, stretching into infinity. A team of staff appeared almost instantly with food, clean clothes, and offers to help her bathe and dress. "This is too much," Sera protested, still standing in the doorway, feeling like she would wake up at any moment and find this was all a cruel dream. "It's exactly what you deserve," he corrected her gently. He was leaning against the doorframe, clearly exhausted from the journey, but refusing to rest until she was settled. "You don't have to make any decisions right now. Take your time, get some rest, let my healers check on you. We'll talk more when you're ready." After he left, Sera allowed the staff to help her to the bath. And as she sank into the hot water,
the first real bath she'd had in days, she finally started to process everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, she was a rejected Omega with no future and no hope, wandering neutral territory and half convinced she was going to freeze to death. Today, she was being offered the chance to be a queen, the mate of the most powerful alpha in existence, to have everything she had ever dreamed of. But the wounds from her rejection were still too fresh. The fear of being hurt again was too strong. How could she trust this when Blake had taught her that mate bonds could be broken, that love mattered less than status and political advantage? In the days that followed, Cade kept his promise to give her space, while still showing his interest. He invited her to meals, asked for her thoughts and opinions, and actually listened to her answers. He showed her around the compound, introduced her to key members of his team, and always treated her with respect, making her feel valued. But he never pushed for more. He never demanded she make a decision about accepting the mate bond. He just existed in her space, patient and kind, and everything Blake had never been. Cade is showing Sera every day what it means to be a true leader and mate. But with the pain of rejection so fresh, how long do you think Sera will trust him? What if I told you that just as that trust begins to build, Sera will be forced to face her worst nightmare? If you are enjoying this compelling story, please leave a like on this video, because Sera's confrontation with her past is about to change the course of everything.
On the 5th day, a delegation arrived from the Pinewood Pack. Sera felt her blood run cold when she recognized Blake Thornton among them. He was here, in the compound, likely for some political meeting that had nothing to do with her. She tried to make herself scarce, hiding in her rooms and hoping to avoid any confrontation. But fate had other plans. She turned a corner in one of the main hallways and came face to face with the alpha who had rejected her. For a moment, they both froze. "Sera," Blake said, and there was something in his voice she couldn't place. Regret? Shock? "I heard you were here. What did you want?" The voice that cut through the hallway was iced cold. Sera looked up to see Cade approaching, his expression so fierce it made even Blake take an involuntary step back. The Alpha King was radiating power and barely controlled rage. "To apologize?" Cade continued, his tone making the words sound like a threat. "To explain why you rejected your mate in public. To beg for forgiveness." "Your Majesty," Blake stammered, clearly not expecting to run into the Alpha King. "I didn't realize. I was just trying to speak to my mate," Cade cut in, his tone clipping the words like a warning. "The Omega you were too foolish to value. The woman who spent an entire night saving my life while you were probably congratulating yourself on your political maneuvering." Blake's eyes widened in shock, darting between Cade and Sera. "Your mate? But she's just—" "If you finish that sentence, I will personally ensure the Pinewood Pack spends the next decade regretting it," Cade snarled. The alpha power was so oppressive that Blake dropped to his knees. "Sera is my mate, my future queen, and the most valuable wolf in this compound. And you rejected her because you were too focused on political advantage to see true value when it was right in front of you." Sera felt something break open in her chest as she watched the alpha who had broken her heart be forced to be knees by the man who wanted to heal her. It was a vindication on a level she could never have imagined. Public proof that her rejection had nothing to do with her worth, but with Blake's blindness. "I'm sorry," Blake managed, his voice strained under the weight of Cade's dominance. "I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought status mattered more than character," Cade finished coldly. "And in doing so, you proved you were unworthy of the gift the moon goddess tried to give you. Now get out of my sight before I decide your presence in my territory is unwelcome." Blake fled, and the other members of the Pinewood delegation who had been watching from a distance scrambled to follow him. The moment they were gone, Cade turned to Sera, his expression instantly shifting from cold fury to warm concern. "Are you all right? I'm sorry you had to see him. If I had known he was in the delegation, I would have made sure you were nowhere near." "Thank you," Sera interrupted, tears streaming down her face, "for defending me, for making him acknowledge what he did, for showing me that I wasn't the problem." "The problem was never you," Cade said fiercely, pulling her gently into his arms. "His rejection had nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with his inability to recognize it. You are worthy, Sera. To me, to the moon goddess, and to anyone sane enough to look past political calculations and see the beautiful heart you have." Sera buried her face in his chest and let herself weep, finally releasing all the pain, shame, and fear she had carried since her rejection. And through it all, Cade held her, murmuring reassurances, making it clear that she was safe, valued, and home. When the tears finally subsided, Sera pulled back just enough to look up at his face. "I want to accept," she said quietly, "the mate bond. I want to accept you as my mate." Hope flared in Cade's golden eyes. "Are you sure? You don't have to decide just because of what happened with Blake. Take more time if you need it." "I don't need more time," Sera said firmly. "I've spent the last 5 days watching you be patient and kind and respectful. You've shown me what it means to be truly valued, what it feels like to be with an alpha who sees me as a partner, not a political liability. I'm still scared, and I'm still healing from the rejection, but I want to do it with you. I choose you, Cade. I choose us." The smile that spread across his face was bright enough to light up the entire hallway. "Thank you," he whispered, pulling her back against him. "Thank you for being brave enough to trust me. I promise to spend every day proving I am worthy of that trust." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been but had always been searching for. The mate bond flared between them, settling into something permanent and unbreakable. And Sera finally understood what the moon goddess had always known. Her rejection wasn't an end. It was the necessary detour that led her exactly where she was meant to be. Blake's rejection had set her free to find her true mate, the alpha who would value her for exactly who she was, not reject her for what she couldn't offer. The official mating ceremony was held a week later, and wolves from all over the territory came to witness their alpha king bond with the omega who had saved his life. Sera stood beside Cade in front of hundreds of witnesses and felt no fear, only a certainty that this was right and true and exactly what she deserved. As they sealed their bond with a kiss that sent sparks of magic dancing in the air around them, Sera saw Blake in the crowd, watching with an expression of pure regret, and she felt nothing at all. Yes, he had rejected her, but in doing so, he had set her free to find something infinitely better. She wasn't broken. She never had been. She was a survivor, a healer, a woman with a kind heart and a brave spirit. And now, she was a queen, mated to an alpha who saw all of that and loved her for it. The rejected omega who found a white wolf dying in a snowstorm saved a king's life and discovered her own worth in the process. And her reign would be remembered not for the status she lacked or the rejection she overcame, but for the compassion and strength that had caught the attention of the moon goddess herself. Sometimes the rejection is just the moon goddess's way of redirecting you to your true destiny. Sometimes saving a stranger changes everything. And sometimes the omega everyone else had dismissed as worthless turns out to be exactly what a king needs to be complete. What a powerful story of Sera's journey from rejection to becoming a queen.
If you enjoyed this journey of hers, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell because I will continue to share many more epic stories just like this one. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think was Sera's greatest strength? Were you more impressed by Cade defending her or by Sera realizing her own worth? I can't wait to read your answers. See you in the next story.